The unclassified documents from the archives of intelligence services consistently surprise researchers. Usually, these surprises are for various historians who then revise the events of the known history. But sometimes it happens that one should revise a scientific model of the world. Without going into conspiracy theories, one can find a lot of evidence that approximately after the Second World War, the humanity of our planet has two significantly different sciences. One is the open science or mainstream, as it believes already knows almost everything about the world around, but basically is not capable of giving answers to the simplest questions, like who are we? Why are we here? Where are we heading? And there is also a fundamentally different science, the so-called secret. Within it, scientists seem to be well aware that we still need to learn a lot of very, very important things about the real structure of the world in which we all live. For example, there is a document from the secret archive which was called Analysis and Assessment of Gateway Process, and it tells no less about the universal hologram of the cosmic superintelligence in the foundations of the world in general, and how this fact of nature can be used by spies for the practical needs of intelligence work in particular. June 9, 1983. On this day, a report appears in which an employee of the U.S. Army Intelligence Service, Lieutenant Colonel Wayne McDonnell, investigated Robert Monroe's audio technologies in detail. While working on the report, he had to plunge not only into physiology, but also into aspects of quantum mechanics to explain the nature of consciousness. The document itself, as the author states, is not designed to be the last word on the subject, and aims to bring the whole phenomenon of out-of-body states into the language of physical science, to remove the stigma of its occult connotations and put it in a frame of reference suited to objective assessment. As indicated in the document, the Gateway experience is a training system designed to bring enhanced strength, focus, and coherence to alter consciousness, moving it outside the physical sphere so as to ultimately escape even the restrictions of time and space. The participant then gains access to the various levels of intuitive knowledge which the universe offers. This technology is based on the binaural beat process. The reason for this is physiological. Each ear is hardwired, so to speak, to both hemispheres of the brain. Each hemisphere has its own sound processing center, which receives signals from each ear. In this physiological structure, there are not one but two electrochemical synaptic waves present, one in each hemisphere, which allows to sync both hemispheres and access altered states of consciousness. In fact, this technology reminds of an ancient method used by shamans and which was described by Castaneda in one of his books. Of course, there are different opinions about the nature of his works, but it's interesting that in one of the chapters, he describes two shamans standing at both sides of the author, synchronously whispering specially selected spells into his ears, and as a result induced him to an altered state of consciousness. Now, as stated in this scientific paper, if the human brain is exposed to one frequency in the left ear, which is 10 Hz below another audible frequency played in the right ear, rather than hearing either of the two audible frequencies, the brain chooses to hear the difference between them, called a binaural beat. The brain is able to pick up this beat and mirror its own rhythm with it. After that, an individual consciousness operates in a similar to altered state that then allows people to acquire new information intuitively. Moreover, this technology helps to achieve such altered states much faster and relies on modern technical achievements. When during such sessions, the experimenter receives practical personal experience in extracting information in an unusual, purely intuitive way, and also gets samples of new unexpected information, then it inevitably comes to an additional research on how and why does all this work at all. In the section titled The Consciousness Matrix, the report states the following, quote, "The universe is composed of interacting energy, some at rest and some in motion. It is, in and of itself, one gigantic hologram of unbelievable complexity. According to the theories of Karl Pribram, neuroscientist at Stanford University, and David Bohm, a physicist of the University of London, the human mind is also a hologram which attunes itself to the universal exchange, thereby deducing meaning and achieving the state which we call consciousness. End of quote. During further research, it inevitably turned out that some people have always been able to achieve such specific states throughout the known history of humankind. That is, there have always been people who not only knew how to get a lot of valuable information intuitively, but also present the information they received in clear concepts and terms that were available to them in the corresponding period of history. The report continues to describe all these things in close conjunction with the religious and philosophical inquiries of the mystics of antiquity till the last parts, until it gradually approaches page 25. Quote, "The classic description of the universal hologram is to be found in a Hindu sutra which says, 'In the heaven of Indra, there is said to be a network of pearls so arranged that if you look at one, you see all the others reflected in it.'" Now, I've cited this quotation because it shows that the concept of the universe, which at least some physicists are now coming to accept, is identical in its essential aspects with the one known to the learned elite in selected civilizations and cultures of high attainment in the ancient world. Energy in this state of inactive infinity is termed by physicists as energy in its absolute state, or simply the absolute. Between the absolute and the material universe, in which we experience our physical existence, are various intervening dimensions to which human consciousness in altered states of being may gain access. Theoretically, human consciousness may continue to expand the horizons of its perceptual capability until it reaches the dimension of the absolute, at which point perception stops because the absolute generates no holograms of or about itself. In order to attain self-consciousness, the consciousness of the absolute must project a hologram of itself and then perceive it. That hologram is a mirror image of the absolute in infinity, still exists outside time and space, but is one step removed from the absolute and is the actual agent of all reality. End of quote. Approximately here, the declassified report suddenly breaks off in mid-sentence at the end of page 24, and then continues from page 26, where the final conclusion section of the document is. Page 25 is not just completely lost from the document in the CIA version, but according to the assurances of the intelligence service, it was absent there from the beginning. To our luck, the missing page was found where no one had ever thought to look for it, in the archives of the Monroe Institute. Quote from the missing page 25. Finally, our description of the universal hologram, the torus of creation and evolution, is neither new nor original. Its use as the figure of the universe, of creation developing and evolution, is found in various stylized representations in virtually every religious system of antiquity, whether of Eastern or Western derivation. Whether it's the stylized labyrinth once popular in the Hellenic world, the spiralized version of the Hebrew tree of life or its Hindu counterpart, or the Chinese spiral through the fourfold powers, the ultimate meaning is the same. Mystics the world over, it seems, have perceived the universal hologram in the same spiral form and have incorporated that intuitive knowledge in their religious writings from antiquity to the present. End of quote.
I feel as though there's some very definite driving meaning in it, and there's a spiraling arrow going to its mark. And I feel that everyone here is conscious of that feeling.
Is it some sort of an influence?
Yes.
It's interesting that in modern science, the concept of a universal hologram is also used to describe how emergent space-time can work. Juan Maldacena, its discoverer, has described it as a theoretical universe in a bottle. In his model, our universe is dual. If we think about it as a spherical-shaped bottle, then the space-time filling the region inside the bottle, its interior sheet, a continuum that bends and undulates, producing the force called gravity, exactly maps to a network of quantum particles living on the outside sheet, bottle's rigid gravity-free surface. The interior universe projects from the lower dimensional boundary system like a hologram. This lower dimensional boundary of the universe makes a holographic principle work and allows for correspondence to be a duality. In this model, individual particles from the Einstein-Rosen theory became kind of microscopical black hole bridges connecting two sheets of our forked universe. On the cosmic level, such bridges are black holes that connect to a soup of quantum particles or plasma on the second hidden sheet, and that physicists can learn about by studying them. It's interesting that in one of the mythological appearances of the king of the gods, Indra, who gave birth to the sun, sky, and dawn, there is extremely important detail. His whole body is covered with eyes. Isn't this image a kind of hint that the hypothesis of physicists, according to which all particles of matter are ultimately black holes? Particles holes that project holograms of everything and simultaneously absorb all the information about the life of our beautiful world through the eyes of Indra? According to the unclassified report, holographic principle and other concepts were the basis for the understanding of how and why gateway method seems to work, and how to use it with other advanced techniques, such as remote viewing, out-of-body states, information gathering from the past or the future. It also gave the first glimpse of the limitation of such techniques. As was outlined in the report, that although individuals in that same state may travel anywhere on an instantaneous basis in either terrestrial or other spheres, the information distortion presented. Apparently, Monroe Institute conducted numerous experiments involving individuals moving from one coast to the other in the out-of-body state to read a series of 10 computer-generated numbers in a university laboratory. Although most have acquired enough of the digits to make clear that their consciousness was present, none have ever succeeded in getting all 10 correct. It is stated in the report that the reason for that could be some kind of noise generated by interference with other holographic patterns, or could be a noise inherent in any biological system. It's important to remember that analysis and assessment of gateway process is a detailed report addressed to the intelligence community with purely professional goals of improving the quality of espionage work in the conditions of our collective dream. And this is what the final part of the report called Conclusion reminds us about. Given the unique information of this section, it is important to point attention to the moments related to the inevitable contacts of psi-spies with out-of-body forms of mind, and to the methods of protection from the active influence of these forms, both on the operatives personally and on their missions and projects. Quote, "The most promising approach suggested in the foregoing study involves the following steps. Begin by using the gateway hemisync tapes to achieve enhanced brain focus and to induce hemisphere synchronization. Repeat step E to achieve facility in gaining out-of-body state under conscious control. Approach Focus 15 and 21 objectives. Escape from time-space and interact within new dimensions from out-of-body perspective. Use a multi-focus approach to solve the problem of distortion in terrestrial information gathering trips. This approach involves the use of 3 individuals in the out-of-body state, one viewing the target object here, in time-space, one viewing it at focus 15 as it slips into the immediate past, and one viewing at focus 21 as it slips from the immediate future. Their consciousness energy systems should resonate in sympathetic oscillation. They can tune in to the same target on different planes, dimensions, with greater effectiveness. Be intellectually prepared to react to possible encounters with intelligent, non-corporal energy forms when time-space boundaries are exceeded. Arrange to have groups of people in Focus 12 state unite their altered consciousness to build holographic patterns around sensitive areas to repulse possible unwanted out-of-body presences. Encourage more advanced gateway participants to build holographic patterns of successful attainment and rapid progress for advanced colleagues to assist them in progressing through the gateway system. If these experiments are carried through, It is to be hoped that we will truly find a gateway to gateway and to the realm of practical application for the whole system of techniques which comprise it. End of quote and report. This report was prepared for the U.S. Army Intelligence and Security Command more than 40 years ago. What new accomplishments and discoveries have been achieved over this long period of time is still classified. It is clear that our science should not be schizophrenically split into open and secret, mainly because the answers to simple questions that are vital for any normal person, but are insignificant and simply not interesting for the down-to-earth tasks of secret science. If the science of the military and intelligence agencies is concerned only with how to find out the intentions of the enemies, how to locate all of them faster and destroy more effectively, then it is probably obvious that it has absolutely no interest in who are we, why are we here, where are we heading questions. On the other hand, mainstream science, which seems to be open to everyone and everything, at the same time does not rush to see or feel the gigantic world of consciousness of the universe, and perhaps a kind of united consciousness in which we all live and are an essential part of.
I feel very benevolent. I mean, I feel as though I have no enemies in the world, and this is very lovely.
Do you feel
Very fragile, delicate, lovely. And it goes and comes, you know. I mean, that one state there that was, I never experienced anything like that. It's marvelous.